So Impact Wrestling Rebellion is getting closer and closer, and it's only a couple of days away now. About a week away or so. It's not too far away at all, and we have some information when it comes to the AEW President Tony Khan, because he has confirmed that he will be at Impact Rebellion next Sunday night, representing All Elite Wrestling. Of course, that major title versus title main event match between the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega and the Impact World Champion Rich Swann is set to take place. So Tony Khan should be there as the president of All Elite Wrestling, considering his World Championship is on the line. You would think he is going to be there, and he has confirmed that he will be. And Tony Khan will be coming back to Impact Wrestling. The All Elite Wrestling president confirmed during an appearance on the Busted Open radio show that he will be making an appearance at Impact Wrestling's Rebellion pay-per-view on April 25th. He also revealed that he won't be coming alone. Now, he mentioned this. It must be stated here. He mentioned this on Impact Wrestling on Access TV on Thursday night during the press conference that took place during the broadcast. We'll touch on that in a second, because I do have a few things to talk about when it comes to the press conference at that show. But this is what Tony Khan had to say on Busted Open Radio. He said, quote, "I'm going to be coming up to Nashville to maintain order next weekend at your guys' pay-per-view," Khan said to Impact Wrestling talent and producer Tommy Dreamer. He said, quote, "I'm going to come up there and make sure no funny business is going on in this title match, and I'm going to bring my own referee, Aubrey Edwards." Now, the title match, of course, in question sees the Impact Heavyweight Champion, the Unified Impact Heavyweight Champion Rich Swann, defend the title against AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, explaining Khan's interest in the pay-per-view and the match. Edwards refereeing would mark her first appearance for the promotion. Now, I don't necessarily know if Aubrey Edwards is going to be refereeing. I think we could see a similar situation to what we used to see a couple of times when it was Raw versus SmackDown. Specifically, when was it? Survivor Series 2005, when you had the Raw versus SmackDown traditional Survivor Series match. I think we could see a situation where possibly we maybe have an Impact Wrestling talent calling the match in the ring, an Impact Wrestling referee calling the match in the ring, and maybe we have Aubrey Edwards on the outside of the ring. I don't know if that's the plan. I don't know if Aubrey Edwards is going to call it. I don't know. It certainly is going to be interesting. As I mentioned, if Aubrey Edwards is the actual referee for the match, it'll mark her first appearance for Impact Wrestling. And look, she's a big-time referee. I know some people necessarily aren't a fan of her. I don't understand why that is the case, but some people aren't a fan of her. Some people say, oh, she's too animated. That's the referee's job. That is the referee's job. But nevertheless, we'll touch on that in a second. But Kenny Omega, of course, he's been a fixture on Impact Wrestling television ever since defeating Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship in December with the help of his friend, the Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Don Callis. Omega and Swann first collided at Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January, where Omega and the Good Brothers emerged victorious over Rich Swann, Chris Sabin, and Moose. But Tony Khan, of course, has also had a steady presence on Impact Wrestling since the Impact and AEW working relationship started. He's been appearing in paid ads alongside AEW commentator Tony Schiavone, but his most notable appearance to date was on the January 19th episode of Impact, where he actually appeared inside the Impact Zone. He brought with him AEW producer and coach Jerry Lynn to help Private Party win a four-way match to become #1 contenders for the Impact World Tag Team Championship. So, one could say, with Tony Khan being there at Impact Rebellion and having a referee of his own, are we going to get a screw job finish in that Kenny Omega captures the Impact World Championship? I really hope not. I really, really hope not, and I don't think that is going to be the case. My only concern when I say that's not going to be the case, because, I mean, you don't know. My only concern about that is that if you watch the press conference, and again, we'll talk about the press conference more in full in a second, but if you watch the press conference, it did feel like, because Tony Khan was there and he was sitting next to Kenny Omega, he was sitting next to Don Callis, which kind of felt a bit odd, if I'm going to be honest, considering that Tony Khan and Don Callis have kind of been at each other since December, saying these horrible things about each other. And that Don Callis has been taking advantage of Tony Khan, and Tony Khan doesn't like Don Callis, and Tony Khan's allowing Kenny Omega to appear on Impact, but now he's sitting there. I know they're representatives of AEW, but it kind of felt a bit strange, like that came out of nowhere during the press conference. But the way that they kind of framed that press conference, it did feel a little bit like Tony Khan will do everything in his power to have the AEW World Champion be holding the Unified Impact World Championships as well. So, given the fact that Tony Khan's going to be there at ringside, And the last time, or he's going to be there at Rebellion, I'm assuming he's going to be at ringside. The last time he was at ringside at an Impact event was on that episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV in January. And when that happened, he actually, not himself, but Jerry Lynn, got physically involved and cost the Impact Wrestling talents the match and caused the AEW talents to win. Who's to say that doesn't happen in the main event of Impact Rebellion next week? Now, again, I don't think it will. I don't think it will. My only thing against that, again, is that they've been very keen on stressing there is going to be a winner. There is going to be an outcome. Someone is going to be leaving the Impact and AEW World Champion. To me, always that was going to be Kenny Omega. And it still is. I still think it is going to be Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega, he's the belt collector. He's going to leave as the AEW World Champion. The Impact World Champion is going to be carrying the TNA World Heavyweight Championship as well. He's also got the AAA Mega Championship. It just all makes sense. That story makes sense. If they do a screwy finish in which someone does leave with the championships, Kenny Omega wins the match, but Tony Khan gets involved, or Jerry Lynn gets involved, or Don Callis and Tony Khan align themselves together to ensure that Kenny Omega wins it for AEW, that would really be a sucky finish for me, and I really don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that, because they've been emphasizing there is no screwy finish. You're not going to get a double disqualification. You're not going to get a no contest. Tony Khan even said this during the press conference, right? I'm bringing with me an AEW referee because we've never had an AEW event, a no contest or a non-finish, especially in a title match or anything like that. We're not in the business of doing that. There will be a winner. There will be a loser. There will be one person that holds all the championships. Just who's to say it's not a screw job? I just really hope it is. I've had my fill, and I think pro wrestling has had its fill of screw job finishes. The Montreal screw job is obviously the most famous or infamous, regardless of how you want to look at it, but it's been overdone to death, and it's just not needed anymore. It's just not needed anymore. So I don't think that's the route they're going to go down. I don't think it is, but just be wary. Just be wary, because the Tony Khan character in Impact Wrestling is completely different to the Tony Khan character you get in AEW. So if you're watching this video and you're not really familiar of Tony Khan in Impact as opposed to Tony Khan in AEW, they are different. They are different. It's the same guy, but they're different characters. So who's to say something like that couldn't happen? Again, I don't think it will. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that it does. But Tony Khan being there is going to make the match feel big. And I spoke about this yesterday, that Impact Wrestling are being very smart about this. And I say Impact because this is an Impact Wrestling presentation and promotion. Obviously, AEW are involved because it's Kenny Omega and it's their World Championship, but it's on an Impact Wrestling pay-per-view. This is all Impact. All of the promotions happen on Impact. It hasn't been happening on AEW Dynamite, so this is all Impact. What they're doing that's smart here is that the outcome of this match is predictable. The outcome and the winner of this match is predictable. It's, to me, pretty obvious that Kenny Omega is going to leave Impact Rebellion with all of those championships. That's been the case since December. I've predicted that since December because it's been that predictable. What they have done, or what they're continuing to do right now, which I think is smart, is they're adding things on top of the match that make it feel bigger and must-see. Because if an outcome's predictable, you could lead yourself to say, well, there's no point really watching. I mean, it's going to be a great match, and it's going to be a historic match, and it's going to be a big moment, but really, there's no need for me to watch because I know what's going to happen. By adding these different elements and these different layers on top of it to make it feel like a big match, it gets more people to buy it, but it makes it feel bigger, so you're like, well, I probably know the outcome, but I can't miss it. I'm going to watch anyway. So having Mauro Ranallo call it is a big deal. Having Tony Khan there is a big deal. Having an AEW official there, whether it's at ringside or calling the match, is a big deal. All that kind of stuff is smart. It's smart promotion. And again, I still think AEW needs to do more in terms of on Dynamite. I think they need to have a Rich Swann appearance on Dynamite. I think they need to have a face-to-face with Kenny Omega and Rich Swann on Dynamite. They need to do something to make it feel like a big deal. I enjoyed having the AEW presence there on the press conference this week because, again, it's kind of the first time that AEW have really acknowledged it. You know, Roman Reigns on SmackDown talking acknowledge me all the time, but this was really the first time that AEW actually truly acknowledged that Rich Swann could be the world champion. So that was enjoyable about the press conference. But since we're talking about it, let's move on. Let's talk about the press conference this week on Impact on Access TV. Now, just 1 week before their title versus title match at Rebellion, Unified Impact World Champion Rich Swann and the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega concluded this week's Impact Wrestling with a press conference. Now, at first, the press conference went relatively smoothly, but this is professional professional wrestling, of course. Now, the first question was about how the Impact World Champion will overcome Omega in their main event match. Swann mentioned about his tough upbringing and spoke about he'll bring his A game to the match. Now, the next question was what I really liked. I thought this was really smart because it is a legitimate question that people are actually asking, is the schedule. It'll be the champion's schedule post-Rebellion and how they'll work it out. How are you going to balance both AEW and Impact Wrestling? How are you going to do both? And Tony Khan, it was a very smart answer and a very reasonable answer. Tony Khan, he said, without a shadow of a doubt, Omega will be bringing the Unified Impact Championship over to AEW. Executive Vice President of Impact, Scott D'Amore, said at the end of the day, it's all about the fans. He believed he and Khan can cordially come together and work out a realistic schedule for the champion to go by that will make the fans happy and entertained. Now, that was really that was smart. And they basically said, look, that Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore will work it out. Tony Khan basically said, look, Kenny Omega, if he becomes both champions, he will work all of the AEW events. He'll work all of the Impact events. He said, Rich Swann, if you become the AEW World Champion, I expect you to be at every single AEW Dynamite, and you can be at every single Impact Wrestling on Access TV. So that kind of removes any element of doubt there. Whoever is the winner, they're going to be appearing on both shows. Now, again, that winner ain't going to be Rich Swann. I would bet a lot of money it's going to be Kenny Omega. So that reaffirms my previous videos and previous comments before, saying that I think Kenny Omega is going to have plenty more matches in Impact Wrestling and is going to be doing plenty more appearances in Impact Wrestling, and it just reaffirms that point. So I think they've kind of confirmed that. Now, the third question, it was just about to be asked. Now, Omega and the other Executive Vice President of Impact, Don Callis, made their way to the press conference. Callis was asked how long he's going to play both sides. Callis took offense by this, saying he was the one to check on Swann when he was rehabbing his broken leg by trying to keep his spirits up. Callis said if it wasn't from him, the match between Omega and Swann wouldn't happen. He thinks he deserves more credit than he's given. Callis then called Kenny Omega up to the podium. Omega opened his speech saying throughout his career he had spent many hours sitting in press conferences like the one tonight, and it just came naturally to him. He transitioned the conversation by saying he was put here on this earth to make change. Swann, on the other hand, was put on here on this earth because he loves wrestling. He's going to try his little heart out every time he steps into the ring, but looking at what's coming up next Sunday, Omega doesn't think Swann belongs in the marquee matchup. Omega added that when people look back on this match, Swann will be the forgotten challenger and Omega will be the only one remembered. As he ended the press conference, Omega mentioned this will be the last time he'll be cordial to Swann. Omega stuck his hand out, and before Swann could shake it, Omega slapped him across the face. Swann jumped Omega, and security intervened to separate the two before the show ended. So I thought the press conference was really well done. I did. I enjoyed the press conference. I enjoyed really the question about how long is Don Callis going to play both sides, because they're not wrong. They're not wrong. That's kind of what Don Callis has been doing. He's the manager of Kenny Omega, but he's also the executive vice president, one half of the executive vice presidents of Impact Wrestling. So you kind of, you are playing both sides. And what is more important? Is it Omega or is it Impact? I think that's a fascinating element heading into it. One thing I will say, a criticism about it is, whilst the press conference did look great, they could have dressed it up a bit better. You can see it in the picture just there. That's obviously they had the Impact sort of background-ish, but they could have dressed it up a bit better. It was just looks like it was just in a random room, but it is what it is. It didn't matter. I thought the questions that people had about it were answered, especially the schedule side of it, so I enjoyed that. And look, they're doing everything they can to try and make it feel like a big-time match, the big-time match that it is. And as I mentioned earlier on, the outcome is quite predictable. I think Kenny Omega is going to win, by having Mauro Ranallo get involved, by having Tony Khan there get involved, by having Jerry Lynn there involved, by having press conferences. They are building anticipation there. It is a big matchup, and they just have to keep reminding fans that it is a big matchup. So I did enjoy the press conference. It's Tony Khan, I think, is going to play into it, and I don't know how. I'm trying to figure out, because it certainly is an interesting situation. And I know a lot of people have been talking. A lot of people have been talking about this AEW and Impact relationship at the moment. More senior people. I think Eric Bischoff has spoken about it. Maybe Booker T, I think, spoke about it as well, saying, "What does it prove? What is it doing? It hasn't changed anything." Well, maybe you can say that, but I think what you can argue against it is they're doing matches like this. This is stuff that hasn't really happened before or hasn't happened in a really long time. That's change. That's exciting. And it's something different. And that's the most important thing. It's something different, and it's something that is getting fans talking, and it is exciting. And look, we're about a week away from Impact Rebellion, and it's going to be a massive event. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. We will be doing a watch along for it here on the channel. We'll be doing a lot of Impact stuff in the next week building up to it. So it's a very exciting time to be an Impact Wrestling fan. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified whenever we do an Impact Wrestling video or we go live for the watch along next Sunday night. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Tony Khan confirming he'll be at Rebellion next weekend, and Kenny Omega and Rich Swann, the press conference this past week on Impact Wrestling on Access TV? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.